Here we are again with a new edition of Inside Grand Prix. Today we preview the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. First then, a look at the host country. Welcome to Germany, host venue for the 12th Formula One Grand Prix of 2006. This Central European country has much to offer. Beaches on the North Sea and Baltic coasts, plus, in the south, the Alps. By contrast, it also has many modern cities. First and foremost, the capital, Berlin, with a population of over 3 million. However, the typical German lifestyle also includes tradition, such as numerous varieties of beer and long-established festivals, especially in Bavaria. Yet Germany's not just all about beer. The fine wines produced along the Rhine and the Moselle are also of international repute. The cliché of Germany being exclusively rural is deceptive. The country's also a world leader in the industrial sector. With marques like Porsche, Mercedes-Benz and BMW, its automotive industry in particular is famous worldwide. Germany is indeed the birthplace of the motor car, Carl Benz having produced the first automobile in 1886. A tradition that's carried on in German motorsport, with both drivers and cars, such as now in the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, which will be a home race for no less than 4 German drivers. As I see myself as German, the German Grand Prix is naturally a home race for me. I've got a lot of friends there and I hope that I'll have a few fans there too. I'm looking forward to Hockenheim. I've enjoyed some great success there, so I'm really looking forward to this second Grand Prix in Germany. However, some drivers take a more critical view of Hockenheim.
We have a few races in Germany. They love their racing, of course, because of Michael, and I've raced for German teams in the past. So Hockenheim is not the most exciting circuit on the calendar, to be honest. It's quite boring, but it was much better in the old days when they had the long straights and the chicanes. But now they changed it, obviously, for the spectators to see the cars a lot more often.
And there's one man they'd really like to see in the lead, fans' idol Michael Schumacher. Here at Hockenheim, they're naturally all hoping for a Schumacher victory. But if he doesn't succeed, then there are always 3 other Germans to fly the flag. Coming up in Safety Focus, Sheer Nerve, the first corner. But first, a virtual lap of the Hockenheim ring. Hockenheim, a high-speed circuit in the middle of the green forests of southwest Germany. Remodeled and made safer in 2002. Straights, chicanes and hairpin bends. For the crowds, thrills are guaranteed. Yes, Hockenheim's good because of its tradition and the stadium atmosphere. When you drive into the motordrome, you can feel the atmosphere in the air, even though the engines aren't so loud these days. I just couldn't imagine Formula One without a German Grand Prix. Right after the start comes the first corner, the Nord Curve. Any mistakes here are harshly punished with no margin for error, as everyone tries to come through first. If you manage to do so, then it's foot down along the straight to turn 2, a right-left combination, which is followed by the long parabolica.
Best thing about Hockenheim is the overtaking ability. From turn 2 all the way down to turn 3, it's the perfect place to overtake because you have a slow-speed corner coming onto a really long straight. It's 1.2 kilometres. And then you have another slow-speed corner at the end of it. It's only 50 or 60 kilometres an hour at the hairpin. And this is the best situation to create overtaking for a Formula One car.
Speeds here reach up to 320 kilometres an hour. Then just ahead of the hairpin, the drivers have to brake extremely hard, but also not too soon. Otherwise, the cars behind will shoot straight past. Driver concentration is required after the hairpin too. maintaining as much speed as possible. The wide track promises some exciting tussles for position. After this combination of corners, there's another short straight, taking us right into the motordrome, accompanied by frenetic cheering from the fans. It's imperative at Hockenheim to have a good feel for the car and to drive cleverly with tyre wear always in mind. That's because the nature of the track makes things very, very difficult. In fact, for the rear tyres, it's the hardest track of all. The angle of the corners and the way they behave puts so much pressure on the brake axle that the rear tyres are inclined to blister incredibly easy. We've therefore always got to do a few tests to develop rear tyres specially for Hockenheim. Out of the motordrome, it's then full ahead into the last corner, the Süd curve, and onto the home straight. Hockenheim, without doubt one of the most exciting circuits for drivers and fans alike. The lead continues to shrink. Michael Schumacher's gaining on Alonso. 17 points remain between them. So Ferrari's on its way forward and within striking distance. The hot phase has begun, and we welcome Toyota to the top 5. Next in Legends, Formula One 30 years ago. But now in personal, in his brother's shadow. It's the fate of the second born, not to be number 1. Number 1, that's his brother, the most successful Formula One driver of all time. Yet he too has the racing gene in his blood, the talent to be very quick. That alone, however, does not automatically make a driver Formula One world champion, even if he's called Schumacher. Talent's a basic requirement, of course, but when it comes to Formula One, then it's actually about utilizing that talent, more about having the talent to organize yourself as well as possible, to get the best from yourself at the right moment, from the circumstances and from the car. The days when you could say, in Formula One, if you braked 5 meters later, then you'd be quicker than the rest, they're over. Ralf Schumacher sat in a kart for the first time when still a young boy. At his side, his big brother. And anything he can do, like being faster than all the rest, Ralf, 7 years his junior, wanted to do as well. Both had just one goal: Formula One. I think you've always got to do what you're reasonably good at, and in my case that just happens to be racing and driving a car at high speed. And it's just doing it better than anyone else or developing a car better that actually interests me most about racing. Simply, if you have a problem, to get stuck in and to find the way around it. That's what it's all about. 6 years after his brother Michael, Ralf too achieved his goal. In 1997, he joined Formula One with the Jordan team, before switching to Williams in 1999. He followed his first race win at San Marino in 2001 with 5 more Grand Prix victories. And yet, he failed to achieve the really major breakthrough. He continued to be in his big brother's shadow. In 2005, he moved to Toyota. The Japanese team with the biggest of all Formula One budgets signed up Schumacher number 2 with the aim of becoming number 1. Toyota's expectations are basically very high. You notice that all around the team. But that's nothing new. It was the same at BMW. In 2005, however, Toyota and Ralf Schumacher were unable to fulfill the great expectations. Although Ralf was regularly in the points, they were well behind the 2 top teams, Renault and McLaren. The pressure for success is mounting. This ought to be the year. Obviously, there's a constant pressure for success in Formula One. If you've got a car that's got to be amongst the first 10, or 5 to 10, then that's what you've got to achieve, and you naturally put yourself under pressure to do so. But anyway, it's not really pressure, as after all, you simply want to win. In the last race at Magny-Cours, Ralf Schumacher barely missed making it to the podium. It's an upwards trend. Perhaps now the time has come for him to take his fate into his own hands. Coming up, where races can be won or lost, the first corner. But now, what actually is rapid prototyping? One concept dominates Formula One in all areas, that of speed. Vehicle development too has to be both highly precise and very fast. By the start of each new season, the car's got to be completely ready to go. Apart from traditional manufacturing methods, the fastest process that Formula One has to offer for component construction is that provided by the rapid prototype machine. If a component needs fine-tuning or even completely remaking, then this magic machine is called into use.
They can design things on a computer which they can turn around and it looks like a real component. With the rapid prototyping, they can now actually take this design straight from the computer into the rapid prototype machine and it will produce the part straight out of the resin. Quite incredible.
In the next stage, what first exists just as an idea is thus relayed to the computer as CAD data. The idea now takes shape via a laser sintering process. In other words, the data from the computer is applied layer by layer, using a powder, then burnt in with laser. Once the sintering process is over, the residual powder can be stripped away. What appears is a three-dimensional component, the prototype, that now acts as the guide for producing all future parts. In this case, for example, it's part of an exhaust system. Another, no less spectacular process is that of stereolithography. Here are lasers used to build up components in a resin fluid, thus creating a template for the component to be produced, such as here, this cylinder head. From brainwave to hardware, after all, time is money. In Formula One, it's very important to come up with new ideas, new ways of fine-tuning, new components as quickly as possible, especially engine parts and parts for the wind tunnel. Changes in this area are constantly made very quickly, and you want to give them a thorough test, for example in the wind tunnel, so we produce proper hardware. Our components are extremely important for this, as in just a day or two we can turn a CAD model into the finished thing. Rapid prototyping technology was largely perfected in the 1980s and has undoubtedly given an enormous boost to what is possible in terms of vehicle construction. And the size of the component to be made is immaterial, whether it be special screws or a piston. Ultimately, it's all about the engineer's know-how coupled with the ability to implement the ideas with efficiency and speed. And that's racing before racing, minimizing the time before a new engine can be released into the fray. Time for a short break, but we'll be right back with all the news and facts about the German Grand Prix. And in Safety Focus, a battle of nerves, the first corner. Don't go away.
Allianz. Insurance and Asset Management. Allianz. Insurance and Asset Management.
Welcome back to Inside Grand Prix. Coming up, news and facts. But first, in Safety Focus, the lowdown on the first corner. The moment of truth, certainly for the drivers on the first row of the grid at the start. 22 drivers from pole to chasing pack, all with the same objective, to get off well and into the first corner. With moments to go, you can feel the tension. The first decisive bit of braking, obvious, but also impossible to plan.
Well, you can plan as much as you want, but generally those plans are changed after half a second. So the most important thing, of course, is to get off the line as best you can. So reaction to the lights and get away as quick as possible.
Pulse 180, car up to 200 in under 5 seconds. The battle for position, reaching its climax in the very first corner. Tight, compact and unforgiving. Pull away or trail behind. Dare to go for the gap.
Das ist vielleicht die einzige Möglichkeit im Rennen, da wirklich.
It's perhaps the only time in the race that you can really make up ground. I'm telling you, it's really crazy what goes on there because you drive into gaps that suddenly appear as two cars separate.
Auseinanderfahren.
You want to drive in and then the gap closes again. It's total chaos, and it always amazes me when everything goes okay.
Immer aufs Neue. Aber es ist Wahnsinn.
But it's fantastic. For a racing driver, the feel and the reactions that you've got to have are really great.
Echt toll.
Stamina is a must. Whether hairpin bends or right-left combinations, each driver has his own individual approach. The feel for the ideal line and the right place to brake has got to be second nature. The rest is strength of nerve and pure intuition. There's no perfect strategy. It's the driver alone who decides between an aggressive attack or cautious defense, between risk or discretion. Once the race is underway, it's a lot harder to overtake, so you have a very close look at the first corner before the race. You also look at videos from previous years and go over again what's gone on in the first corner. The problem, of course, is that you have to find a compromise. You can take too much of a risk, which is stupid, as no race is won or lost in the first corner. But if you get something wrong, then it's all over. It's probably best to err on the side of caution, and only if you see a real opening, then give it a go. You need both a feel for the situation and a car capable of making up ground right from the start. So the engineers also focus closely on the first corner. Naturally, the team's main attention is on the full race distance. Tire change and fueling strategies provide plenty of opportunities for outdoing the competition or keeping them in check. However, as nobody knows what the others are planning, one thing remains certain. Races are won by overtaking. The sooner the better, best of all in the first corner.
Once you get going, the driver is full throttle, he's shifting gear, so there's not much he can do for probably a few seconds then. And then the next point is the braking for the first corner. And it's important the driver can feel the limit of grip straight away so he knows exactly where he can brake. Because if he over brakes, then he's going to go off the track or run wide and pick up some dirt. If he under brakes, then he's going to lose positions, because if he brakes too early, then other drivers will brake later and go past him.
An intuitive feel for a split-second chance. Race after race, an electrifying moment. The thrilling duels over the first few meters, the approach into the first corner. And now the German Grand Prix 30 years ago. "1925 saw the opening of what's probably the most legendary circuit in the world, the Nürburgring, reverentially known as the Green Hell. Initially 28 kilometers long, then shortened to 23 kilometers and 78 corners, the circuit became the ultimate challenge for every driver. With the advent of Formula One, speeds began to rise above all reasonable limits. The chase around the Nürburgring's North Loop increasingly became a dance on a razor's edge. By the 70s, the point had been reached where drivers no longer wanted to play along.
Ich kann mich sehr wohl daran erinnern, dass wir Grand Prix-Fahrer in
I can well remember that at the time we, the Grand Prix drivers, had imposed a 3-year program on the Nürburgring. 1976 was the last year of the program. We discussed this again at Long Beach, and the driver's view was that because the cars had become so fast, we should consider curtailing this program by a year and not driving there anymore. However, we took a vote, and the majority were in favor of keeping to the offer of 3 years and racing at the Nürburgring one more time. I was personally against this, but I went along with the majority and therefore duly turned up for the race.
Und bin deswegen auch hier in den Start gegangen.
On the 1st of August 1976, the inevitable happened. Niki Lauda was directly involved in the worst accident in Formula One history. It was only by great luck that he survived the inferno. But the show must go on, and the race was indeed restarted and run over the full distance. 20 drivers risked it once again. But on the second attempt too, anxiety was close at hand. 3 more drivers would fail to finish, though no further injuries were sustained. Nevertheless, the North Loop's days were over. James Hunt was the last winner on the now notorious circuit. But on his way to the finishing line, his thoughts were with the badly injured Niki Lauda. The campaigner for greater safety had fallen victim to the very circuit that he'd criticized most that year. Behind James Hunt, Jody Scheckter came in second, but he too showed few signs of joy. Jochen Mass achieved his first podium finish. Behind him, Carlos Pace and Gunnar Nilsson. Rolf Stommelen took the last championship point, his only one of the year. A victory celebration without joy. James Hunt, Jochen Mass and Jody Scheckter happy to have come through the chaotic race in one piece. You couldn't be afraid of dying, and you had to be prepared to take incredible risks to achieve anything here at all. It was a great challenge, but on the other hand, of course, it was terribly dangerous. They had to consider what was more important. The path was clearly set. A new Nürburgring was built, which is naturally quite different to the old one, as it was adapted to conform to today's safety standards. Formula One returned to the Nürburgring in 1984, and since 1991 the circuit has again been a regular on the race calendar. Despite everything, motorsport continues on the old North Loop, including once a year the famous 24-hour race. Time for our news and facts. Incredible but true. Schumacher's gone and broken another record. No one's won on the same circuit as often as he has. The Germans claim victory at the French Grand Prix for the 8th time. That's unique. By the way, he also securely holds second place. In Canada, Michael Schumacher's been right at the top 7 times. It's nice if there's no one to beat but yourself. Goodbye happy times. Attention please, German Formula One fans. Big boss Bernie Ecclestone has decreed that the Horsepower Circus will be hosted in Germany only once as of next season, because the German racetracks are no longer making profits. His solution is rotation. Hockenheim one year, below the Nürburg the next. The aim is to secure the future for both events in the long term. A mandatory but fun appointment for Michael Schumacher aside the German Grand Prix, the match of the heart featuring many celebrities from sport, entertainment and the media. Goal scoring for charity, the earnings from this match for the heart will go to UNESCO. And out on the track, Michael Schumacher intends to prove to his fans, especially to Alonso, that he's just as good on asphalt as he is on the pitch. Let's take a look at the hardest braking point on the Hockenheim ring, the Brembo engineers located just behind the Parabolica. It's down to 60 from a speed of 320. The drivers lose the 260 Ks in just under 2.6 seconds and are subjected to G-forces of 4.2 Gs. That was Inside Grand Prix. See you again for the next Grand Prix in Hungary.
This program was brought to you by Allianz, your global partner for comprehensive insurance and asset management solutions.